with Golden, were these 3 back-to-back bus asses?
Oh no, yeah, this is
just straight no round browns.
Yo, we gotta bring back the bus ass, bro. That was the Royal Summit. In that back turn, nice extended stun, nice. Get over there.
Oh, and that's guaranteed.
Yeah, very good. Lisa,
bro, that grab is so good. All of that off of that grab, man.
But Lisa's good.
It's so gross.
She's a great character. Dude. She's a great character. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Nice free cancel. Ooh, the staggers.
The mix. The mix. The mix. Oh, no.
Golden Ghost Cartel, my people, my babies, my dogs. What's going on, y'all boys, man? You already know what time it is, man. It's your boy Golden Ghost, and welcome back to the Golden Ghost Cartel, dude, baby boy. And today, I'm gonna be doing something that I usually don't do. And the reason why I usually don't do these things is because of the fact that in most cases, I normally don't feel, too equipped with enough knowledge to be able to make something like this. Guides are normally not in my wheelhouse. But the things for this specific character has changed my mindset on this quite a bit. And I've learned quite a lot more from this specific character on top of the knowledge I've gained from asking people like Hoodless, Emery, Quiggle, Aqua Twister, tech that I've picked up from watching other Lisa mains out there like Gruff, Onryo TTV, Baygood, Killy, and then overall the 5 to 6 months of just playing some high level DOA and trying to level up has gotten me to the point where I'm at now with La Mariposa, or as I just like to call her, Lisa Hamilton. You feel me? While I'm still nowhere near the top player status, I have learned quite a bit. And I want to make something for all my new Lisa mains, my aspiring Lisa mains, or even Lisa players that are looking to shake off the rust. Hopefully, with this guide, I'm going to be providing you with all the tools you need to understand what type of character you're playing and recognize your kit with her so that you can forge a playstyle of your own with what's provided, because she has a lot of tools and it's really about how you apply them. So all that being said, let's get started. Okay, so first things first, we got to talk about movement, frame data, and safe moves when it comes to Lisa. Movement with Lisa is extremely important. She has one of the better backdashes in the game, as well as an abundance of movement cancels that can be, used in a neutral to your benefit, which we'll go over in detail as time goes on. If you want a guide for movement in specific, however, I have made a guide for DOA movement to help out all the new players who want to just, block while moving, doing the DOA Korean backdash, and even free stepping in between certain moves to catch the opponent's back and mid whiff, so that so if that's something that you're interested in, please check that out. I'm gonna have the link for that in the description below. Frame data and safe moves, however, I feel like go hand in hand, and before you guys get scared about this, don't worry, I will be explaining everything for Lisa's frame data as someone who's been playing by feel for years. The problem that I've always had with frame data in DOA is that the first time I learned, about frame data in general was in Tekken. So when you tell me a move is -4, the first thing I'm asking is like, okay, but like, what does that mean really? Like, what does -4 mean? What does that do for me? Can I do something after that or what? And it's stuff like that. That's how I'm going to be tackling the frame data today with her moves. I'm not just going to go over how many frames there are or something like that. I'm going to be trying to use them to tell you what all your options are given the scenario with the context of that same frame data. The reason why I brought up safe moves and why they go hand in hand is because there's been a few people that's asked me about like what are just Lisa's safest options, or what are moves that give her the most frame advantage to do whatever she wants. And the thing is, that's kind of weird. It's not really how safe moves work in this game. Now, she does have buttons that give her like great frame advantage that we will get into in a minute, but you can't just throw it out for free. As far as moves that are safe, a good example, let's take a look at 6K. It's a decently fast button with a 13 frame startup and is -5 on block that makes it safe. So what does this even mean really? Because block punishment in DOA isn't by striking, it's by throws. Throws are the best way to punish someone for doing an unsafe string on block. Now, for context on this move, if you're throwing out 6K against a grappler, you will get cooked because grapplers have a 4-frame neutral throw. You're gonna have to try and commit to a throw break every time that you throw that out on block against a grappler. But for this example though, let's use a non-grappler whose fastest throw is 6 frames. With 6K being safe, that means if you press another button after 6K, or if I fuzzy guard using 3-3H, After the 6K, the throw will not connect and I have mad frame advantage. This is useful because despite the move being safe, if you just hold block, you're still subject to being thrown. And the clear-cut way to stop this is by simply throwing out another button. However, if they choose to throw out a punch or a kick of their own while you're pressing on negative frames, you're going to get counter hit. This is why high-level players will usually follow up safe moves with fuzzy guarding just to cover up both options. Main point is that with this example, you can see a couple things are for certain. By playing with the frames, you get an understanding of what all your options are with specific moves that are safe, and really just the moveset in general between all your buttons. The punishment system in and of itself is technically another layer of the triangle system. So when you do moves on block, just treat it the same way you treat it as a move when you get a stun. Another layer of the triangle system. And the sooner you understand how each and every single one of Lisa's key moves play into the triangle system, the more comfortable you will be learning her kit. So with all this finally being out the way, let's go ahead and talk about her key moves. Now, in the key moves section, we're going to go over these main things: the move and its extensions, the frame data, and what are the ways that you can implement the move with the context of the frame data, and what are the situations where you really want to do the move, and what are your options after you do the move. So let's start with 6K again. For a good example, 13 frame startup, -5 on block, has great stun frames, allowing you to hit follow up with a launcher. There are two extensions to this, being 6KK and 62K. In my experience, this move is best as a stun starter while you're on the defending end or blocking another move. You just got to be careful with this, because using them against a grappler that knows that they can throw you after the knee, it is going to take advantage of that, especially on block. However, that's where the extensions come in. I will say this though, do not use the extensions unless you know for sure that your opponent is going to try to respond with something and you can catch them, because both the string finisher, literally both string finishers are unsafe, and all you're getting for this is a hard knockdown for the mid and a sweep for the low, which is -2 on hit anyway. So don't be trying to get too happy with this button and as far as its strings, but the button itself is still pretty good. After this button, if you hit them, they're stunned. The ball is in your court. You can start playing the stun game with Lisa to get a combo going. And if they block, be prepared to make a defensive decision. Either fuzzy guard, you can sidestep attack after this, or if you know they're going to try to throw out a button while you're safe, like say they're on Kasumi for example, they try to throw you, go ahead and mash and you'll win that. And if they're playing a grappler, in that case, be prepared for that neutral four frame throw, and go ahead and get the throw break going. Her next key move, her jab strings, her jabs. One important thing to note about this character is that she has an 11 frame jab, whereas other characters like Kasumi here for example are faster and have 9 frame jabs. So in a lot of cases, if you're in a neutral and you're trying to go band for band with a speed character, you're going to lose. To win, you have to play the counter hit game. Play the counter hit game by blocking your opponent, putting your own safe buttons and strings on the screen, trying to open them up, trying to create some space, trying to make a mistake, make a whiff, and then eventually get the stun. Easier said than done. It requires a lot of paying attention to how your opponent responds to each interaction, and that's really just the key to make her work well in general. But playing to the triangle system will help you identify these. Anyways, getting ahead of myself. Jab strings, they are great on her. Her jab leaves her 0 on block, and her 2-tap leaves you -3 on block, which is pretty safe. If they try to throw you after this, they're definitely getting fried there if they try to press after that second jab. Other than that, -3, refer to the defensive options that we've been talking about so far. Just be aware that since you are -3 instead of -5 with 6K, it's not as risky to continue your offense as it would be after applying the knee. So just because you have them couple extra frames, it's not as risky. So just be mindful of what your opponent's doing on the screen when you're applying these, and you'll be good. Now there is one more part to the jab string. You have your jab, you have just a regular jab, and then you have jab, which is unsafe. But then you have jab 4, PP4, and then you also have PKK, which is unsafe. But if you do PKK4, Now you're -4. Both of these moves are -4, as you can tell. PP4, PKK4. Both of these moves are -4, and as you can see, leaves you back turn. Now I likes this because she gets access to her back turn kit, and this is where she has her most lethal buttons. The threat of this makes people want to think that you're going to do something with your back against the screen, and there's quite a bit of options that you can do with with these couple moves. So real quick, let's talk about her back turn kit just for a little bit, starting with her 12 frame booty bounce. That is 4P plus K, and this is one of her best buttons from back turn to do. If they do a slow move from here or they do a throw, this is going to catch them every time, and as you can see, it has some pretty good stun. 4P mid launcher from back turn. It also has some high crush properties. 7H plus K, 7K, another launcher. Just be careful as both launchers are unsafe on block. She also has 2P and 2K from back turn, which are both slow, but they're good lows for mix-up purposes. If you have the opponent reeling on block trying to figure out what you're trying to do, when you're getting that, especially when you got them at the wall, bro, you could just do whatever you want.
She's a great character. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Nice free cancel. Ooh, the staggers.
The mix. Oh no.
7P is a homing mid punch that stuns pretty hard, especially on counter hit. But outside of the fact that it homes is not all that great, but it's still an underrated move in my opinion. If you think they're gonna step while you have your back to them, this is a really good option. And then you have her back turn throws, which are all pretty good. You have this right here, which is the regular throw. You have, if you press 8 and throw from your back turn, you get this little hurricanrana right here. And then you have the rolling. You have the rolling one, where if you have your back turn, you hit 6 throw, you get the little rolling, you get the little roly-poly joint right there. All these throws are pretty good. However, they can all be ducked and punished accordingly if you aren't being careful. But implementing throws in the mix is still very important, because I haven't even talked about her best button from Backturned, and that is Backturned P plus K, Raw Body Splash. This move is good mainly because not only is it a hard knockdown move in which you can force tech someone if they don't tech up off the floor, but on block, a raw body splash is plus 17 on block, meaning that when you do this, you get a free button. Now there's ways that you can deal with this move. There's plenty of ways. You can sidestep it, you can interrupt it, you can hold mid punch and dodge it completely, giving them an opening to punish you. This move has plenty of ways to be dealt with, but by implementing the throws, everything else from the back turned in the mix opens up, including the raw body splash. The key to hitting the raw body splash as often as possible is simply to pick your spots, and if you've been mixing enough, you get them enough mental plus frames on them. I call it mental plus frames just because of the fact that you basically, the move is like over 30 frames long. It's 33 frames long, so you basically need to have them so mixed up to where they are holding block, they are scared of what you're gonna do, and then you can put them in a situation where you punish them for blocking, which is really her best way of opening somebody up without having to worry about being completely blitzed and having to just play the space out game. Mind you, you get all of this just from implementing the jab string. You get all these options just from trying to continue offense, but she has other options as well that might be even better. Remember when I said she has to play the counter hit game? Well, by hitting 4 from back turn, she'll hit a backstep animation that allows her to avoid buttons and bait with punish stuns. This is honestly a great option and one of my favorite things to do with Lisa ever since I learned about it, but it's not invincible. If you do PP4 on block and you try to step back, you can easily get thrown before front face the opponent again. However, you can circumvent that by simply hitting the button, literally any of the buttons I mentioned from her being back turn, and it'll nip away the throw punishing. Another thing to note is that there are some buttons that characters can use that will reach you before you can even do the step back. So what do you do then? Just block. By holding the guard button, you'll instantly turn around and you'll be blocking, and then in more cases than not, a lot of these moves that reach you are generally negative frames. Notice how I'm plus 11 after blocking that forward punch by Kasumi, after that. You feel me? with this, I can hit her with a 6T for free, and that's because 6T on Lisa is only 6 frames. So like I said before, if you couldn't already tell from this interaction and the interactions before that I'm describing with the others, this triangle system doesn't just stop when you're attacking someone that's already stunned. It's applied all over her moves on block and in neutral. So let me turn your attention to her other key buttons, because there's quite a few that all have the same animation at the end. These moves will be K6K4, 6PK4, 3K4. Now as you can see, all these moves have similar animation properties to the PKK string, where it's unsafe unless you hit 4, which puts you into the back turn to make it safe. The main difference between these buttons is that they are -3 instead of -4. This extra little bit of frames gives you just a bit more leeway to create whiffs with the step back for back turn, as well as just overall options. That extra frame makes a bit of difference that you can get away with. Outside of that, everything I said about the PP back turn string, you can apply to this, but it just gets a little bit more effective with that extra frame there. Let's also say, for context, you fight someone and you create a whiff and they press out in the open. What do you do now, right? Best button for the interrupt in my experience is 7K, and this is just a really good button to use out in the open in general, like out in neutral, because it has deceptive range on it, and really you could do it just out in the open with space, and if they block, they can't really punish you because look at all that distance you're making with the move. And then not only this is also something that you can cancel into the run stance, which I will talk about later. So yeah, in a lot of ways, not only is this like a whiff punisher button, this is also like an effective poke if you can just get it like that out in the neutral. It's negative as shit, it's negative as fuck, but like, who's punishing me from this distance? Yeah, that's right up there with her other get in tools, which we will get into a little bit later. Her offensive hold is also really good in the context of, you know, you creating that whiff and somebody's pressing a button. Her offensive hold is 66T. Wrong button. 66T. An offensive hold essentially is a grab that eats buttons, which is only really beaten by either doing a duck on reaction or by doing a regular throw. So let's talk about my favorite string, and that being the 1P string. This is a homing mid punch with decent range on it and has multiple follow-ups. It has a K follow-up, which is -5, safe unless you're dealing with a grappler. This is usually one of the buttons that you can use to harass the opponent with from a distance, but good players will normally hold the high and mid kick follow-ups on reaction. The string has 3 kick follow-ups with 2 different options. The string has 3 kick follow-ups with 2 different options for the enders. The last hit of both these string options can be beaten by low ducking or low blocking, followed by a low throw punish. So get used to always confiding in only using 2 or 3 hits from the string. Don't do the full string unless you know for a fact that they're going to press into it after the first 2 kicks of the string. Then there's also the 1PP extension. Not as threatening as the 1PK extensions, just because one is more hits, and for 2, 1PK gives you just a lot more stun overall. But it's still a useful tool for counter hit, especially if they are openly expecting the high and try to hold that on reaction. It's for that reason that 1P alone by itself is also a good option in a given situation that they're expecting a certain follow-up, because this on counter hit will stun. Just don't go trying to do 1Ps on normal hit, because in that context the move is -12 on hit. You will get big throw punish for doing those frames, so just be careful with it. So we covered a guard break animation that gives you a free stun button with back turn P plus K, and we've covered a move with good range with the 1P strings. Now how about a move that is basically the baby of these 2 moves? Front facing P plus K is a move with decent range, not as much as the 1PK strings, but still has decent range, but it has faster startup than the back turn body splash. However, it doesn't have as many plus frames on guard break. Regardless, +5 is in your favor, and that's great because on a guard break the opponent has to make a defensive choice. They're either going to mash at -5, which means you're going to win if you hit a button. Then if they realize they can't win the interaction and start blocking after the guard break, then you can get in their head and start throwing them after you hit the guard break. But yeah, that's what's so great about this guard break right here in specific, just because you basically have to force them into a decision from here. This leads me into her other two strings that have the same animation, those being 6 PPP and 3 PP. Both moves that lead into that same guard break, it being the combo ender. 3 PP is good as it's a 2-hitter that leads into the guard break, and in my experience hits just about as often as the P plus K does when you do it raw. But 6 PPP, however, personal opinion, not a good string to throw out, because it's a mid punch all the way through, and it gives the opponent like way too much time to recognize that the guard break is coming, and for that you're gonna get held. Somebody's gonna hold that shit. The success rate of 6 PPP literally drops the higher up you climb up in against a tier of opponents that you fight on this game. Its best usage for the 6 PPP is to literally throw it out on the rarest of occasions. Maybe like a long set and you haven't tried it until like the tail end or something, but a much better option is 6 PP4, which puts you back turn, and 3 P4 also leaves you back turn. Both deep stun for a combo continuation on counter hit, and I should mention that this also leaves you 0 on normal hit. However, this scenario is really rare in my experience, but just be aware of that you can't really do too much from 0 while you're back turn. You can jab with your 11 frame, booty bouncer to 12 frames. Those are your fastest buttons, assuming they go for a high or something. You can do a throw from back turn that will catch them, but that's assuming they don't throw out a mid. And honestly, if you're fighting a 9 framer, you're better off just blocking if they're that close to you. There's one more thing that can be used in and out of back turn that's pretty useful, and that is the kick strings. K, double K, and triple K. No clan. These are decent whiff punisher tools that have stun properties on normal hit, which is great. And for back turn, the first kick even high crushes. However, the flaw of this, similar to the 6 PPP, is the final hit. I'm not supporting the triple K off the game or on the game because the last kick of the string is too telegraphed. So if somebody's just throwing that thing out, you're gonna get held, bro, and you're gonna eat shit for doing it. Save the last kick like your last supper before letting that thing rip. Now the double K strings, outside of them being a high, are very good. 14 frames, so not the fastest button in the world, but using it after blocking a move or a whiff punisher, it has a great ton of usefulness to her kit. Now if you just do 9K, which is basically the P plus K of the triple K no clan string, on paper it's a pretty good move. It has stun frames on hit, low crushes, -3 on block, giving you the same opportunity as your 6 PK4 strings. The only thing that makes this move not that great is how slow it is. It's about as slow as the back turn body splash. It's really telegraphed, and you need to be in your opponent's head to have the mental plus frames established, or else they're going to either mid kick hold or punch you out the move in midair. 4K strings, these right here, they're the same as the 1P strings, just without the 1P by itself, so no need to retread old ground there, but still really good to use as they have deep stun properties, and the first kick is only -5 on block, so please refer to your options with the 6K on block, and everything else has been -5 since those have the same frames. From here we have moves that are more commitments than pokes. These buttons I would call 50-50s, with both being unsafe if blocked, in some cases being on hit. Case in point with the breakdance string in 1K. Now you get a lot of different strings that you can do from this, like the 1K K mix and stuff like that, but this 1K K mix rarely ever works out for real, because once you get that mid kick, any and all extensions on whiff, if the opponent doesn't hold, it's just, you're not going to be able to take advantage of that if they don't hold. Why? I wish I knew why. It makes it really hard to get any mileage out of this move, for the reason that unless you saved it for a round closer or something, this leaves only 2 real strings that's viable with this. This being 1K. This move's knocks down, and thankfully you can delay hit confirm it you know, and that helps increase the success rate of the move a little bit, but it's mad unsafe on block. And then you have the mid punch extension, which stuns, but it's also unsafe on block. And just like 1K by itself, it's unsafe on hit too. So you kind of just have to commit to the mix if you want to go for this. You can get mileage out of these, but it's risky. Another equally risky string that makes a good get-in tool is the 66p strings. This will be 66pk and then 66pk. I said 66pk twice. 66pp and 66pk. Both unsafe on block, but on hit grant good stun frames, allowing you to continue your offense, assuming they won't guess the correct hold. Now remember when I talked about the button from before, right? The 7k, that being just a good button just to throw out for good keep out and stuff like that. This is the part where I'm going to bring it up again, because I left out another string that is, you know, that was on purpose just due to how important this section is, and that is the run stance that you can do after. The run stance is just as important to Lisa's kit as the back turn is. With PPK and 66k, if you hold 6 right after doing these strings, you will go into the run stance, and as you can see, you will leave the opponent at 23 frames with advantage in your favor. You can also access running from the neutral by just doing forward, 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 or 666, no Satan, and you will be able to get the running animation that way as well. And with PPK and 66k on block, you get 6 frames of advantage on block as well. So you get frame advantage on block as well from doing these. So you think this is some goated stuff, right? Like on some, almost on some Tekken 8 stuff. You get plus frames on hit and guard into some other stuff, right? In the mix. Well, yes and no. If you're hard committing to her options, then you'll quickly find out how this falls apart. You know, she has 3 main moves out of run, that being running P, which she can also extend with P plus K, that being a body splash. Unlike how the raw body splash is, you don't really get a free button after this. You don't get plus 17 on guard break, you get a plus 9 on guard break. Yeah, personally in that scenario, I would treat it more like a front facing P plus K, but just a little bit slower and a bit more telegraphed. But on the bright side, you get more plus frames to basically do whatever you want after the fact. But on the downside to this, since the move is more telegraphed, with that being like the only option out of that backhand from this state, there's no other option out of this, it does make it a bit easier for, if someone can recognize that the body splash is coming after this, it does make it easier for them to press into it and interrupt you. Here's the real problem though. On hit, if the opponent ducks the backhand, but here's a real problem to this string. If somebody knows that that backhand is coming on block or on hit, all they have to do is duck into a free walk. Especially if you do the body splash after, because if you do the body splash after, you can see how bad that looks, right? And this is even on hit as well. Look at this on hit. And that's like free every time. It's just not, it's not a reliable thing to go for on a thing. If you're just going to keep throwing it out, or if you get predictable with it, if you get too predictable with it, it's a little bit on the more execution side, I would say. Like, not many people are going to punish the move like this in this sort of way. You'll probably catch more people holding the body splash. But I've seen this happen to people before. I've seen this happen to me before, where somebody's going to free step behind you and they're going to just get your back and they're just going to completely mess you up for trying to do that out in the open. Another option that you have is H plus K, which is essentially like the baseball slide. You get one of those. But here's a problem with that. If you duck into a low block, it basically just stops it. Kind of just stops it. You have 20 plus frames off that, bro. So that's literally 2 options out of this stance where you can literally duck and then punish something for it. The slide and the backhand, you can duck into a punish. So you'll have a lot of scenarios where there will be people in the higher levels of play where when you go into this running stance, they're just gonna duck because they don't really fear your mid options like that. Your mid options don't put you in no stun. Your mid options don't do too much for you. You know, the most you're gonna get is a blowback or a hard knockdown. Now, what are these mid options now that I'm talking about them? I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Her mid options from this is another kick. So basically, if I press K after a running animation, it puts me in another drop kick. It's good, don't get me wrong, it's good to reset the situation, especially if you're trying to frustrate them into getting something. And it's probably like one of her top moves out of running stance, to be honest, because I don't even think you can really interrupt this. I don't think you can interrupt this or low block punish it as bad as you can with the other moves, right? And then her other mid option out of this is the body splash, the running splash. But there's a big problem with this running splash move as well, because you're going to see that this move, for whatever reason, this guard break is -18 on block, bro. A guard break being -18, which means I can low throw punish the fuck out of that. If I had an offensive hold, I could probably do it. I don't know if Kasumi has one or not. But yeah, as you can see, each of these moves do have their strengths and also glaring weaknesses, to the point where few high level players will just opt to duck when they just see the moves at start until you give them a reason not to, because the mids just aren't that threatening, you know. And you take away the Oki that you can get from the slide knockdown, you take away the stun potential you can get by following up with a running P, and you know, with a jab or something else that you can do, because if you hit the running P, you can get another thing, because that is like a small stun. So if you can play the stun system correctly, you can continue to stun with that. But the problem is that it's a high, and you have two options where if you duck, you can get severe punishes off of that, you know. You combine that with all you really have to worry about is being a knockback and a reset. And all this is assuming that you get the interaction on hit. On block, a well-placed button is going to interrupt majority of her stuff besides the running splash and the reset kick. And all of these combined, you know, with the weaknesses, make her run stance seem like it's really scary to run, since it seems like it just has so much counterplay to it, leading to you getting punished heavily if they know the matchup. So how do you circumvent all this, right? You have to make the opponent respect the stance and respect the mids in order to open up the rest of your stuff from there. Now the question is, how do you do that? The answer is simple. You do it with run cancels. She can cancel out her run at any time with either the block button or with the back button. Me personally, what I like to do is I like to cancel the run with the back button over the block button, just because it feels a little bit more comfortable to do it that way. And from there, you can basically do whatever. You can go in the back turn with 8P. You can go into a different attack. Like, one thing I like to do is I'll just run cancel into one piece strings, or run cancel into 6XP strings, run cancel into 6PK strings, run cancel into PPK strings or PKK strings. Or from the back turn, you can go in the back turn after running and then go into another back step just to retain that space. You feel me? This changes the entire game with this stance, because now against someone who's expecting, you know, who's going to duck because they're expecting a high or a low, because those are like her most scary things out of run stance, you can force them to stop ducking, because you can go out of run stance and then start running your mids. After doing this enough times, you're going to force them to eventually respect the mid attacks, which is, instead of just doing this, or instead of just trying to constantly interrupt your buttons all the time, it's going to force them to start blocking. And once they start blocking, then you're going to be able to finally start adding in your other moves, adding in the rest of your running kit. Now on to her more obscure buttons, that being her backswing blow with 1H plus K, and her get off me button being 4H plus K, and then being her 7 and 9P. 1H plus K is a great charge move. It has some really deceptive range on it, like some really deceptive range on it. It guard breaks, so you can't get thoroughly punished for this unless they have the correct hold on it. You know, if you can do a mid kick hold, then you'll be able to hold this. And unlike other backswing blows in the game, like how Hitomi has 4P plus K, Hayabusa has 4P plus K as well. Unlike those, you can cancel it with the run button, with forward. You can cancel her backswing blow, and that is a luxury for her. You do this out in the neutral, and what you're doing is creating a two-way mix. You're creating a two-way mix with this. Because now they have to worry about, am I going to let this rip? And then if I don't let it rip, oh, is he going to do something from run stance? Or is he going to cancel it from run stance? It's a two-way mix off of just having this one cancel available to you. Also, one H plus K is also a godlike whiff punish move. You know, so if somebody's out there whiffing and stuff, you can go out there and throw it out. Especially in Oki, if you have them on the ground, if you get enough spacing out, you can just throw out a 1 H plus K and avoid the wake up kick entirely. 4 H plus K. This is a 12 frame reverse cartwheel. It's a good get off me move while she's being pressured. Usually being pressured is not ideal for Lisa. She doesn't like people being in her face. She's a space control character. She likes being able to get in and get out as she pleases. So if the opponent's staying on her like some stank on doo-doo, it's going to be hard to get anything going for her, especially if they're on a faster character. So to circumvent this, one of your best choices are usually to either sidestep, get a sidestep off, do a throw punish if they do something unsafe, or pick your moment and press a button. And 4 H plus K is sometimes just a really good button to press. And then one more thing, you can also go into running stance from this. Now 7 and 9P aren't really attacks, but they're more so just movement buttons. One giving you a backflip that you can transition into a running stance, best used for in the neutral in my opinion, and then the other being a cartwheel. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't really even know what the best option for this is. Maybe like in the neutral to, you know, basically just open them up. Like say you're out in the neutral and they're playing really passive, you can probably like get in this and then go run your back turn mix just raw. But in order to get something like that off, you need to have a lot of mental plus frames, like, because you're just not only are you just out here cartwheeling just across the entire board, just leaving yourself open with no attack after, but you also have your back to them. So it's like you have to really, and I mean really, be in their head in order to get that out. No, I think the best way to implement the cartwheel is in between your combos. So say if you get a combo going, you can do it like that, and then from there the world is your oyster, because they have to get up and make a decision quick, versus just doing it raw out in the open. Outside of that, it kind of functions similar in the sense of the 9K. It just leaves you back turn, and the only difference, like I said, is it doesn't attack the opponent. But you can follow up with the attacks from back turn after you finish the cartwheel. In my testing, like I said, it's usually just best for combo setups. And or if you, like I said, if you really just got the opponent in that deep of a blender where you could just cartwheel from full screen and they're too scared to attack you, then I mean, shoot, in that case, bro, just cook them, man. You got it at that point. One last thing I think I should mention before we go on to the throws. If you're VF brained like me, like I can be sometimes, you may want to throw out a 2P, especially under pressure, but just be mindful that you are 0 when you do that. So it's going to be no different than round start. So if you aren't faster than your opponent, be prepared to make an offensive read, such as a sidestep attack, offensive hold, or just block after you do a 2P, because you're not, you know, against Kasumi, if you try to mash after this, you're not winning that. One final thing before I, you know, forget, with all these buttons under your arsenal, bro, don't forget that Lisa has grappler privileges, man. Her grabs are a frame faster than all the other non-grapplers in the game. So when studying, you know, what's punishable by other characters, if they have something that's -5 or higher, you eating on Lisa, because she's getting away with that. She's grabbing things that other characters can't at 4 frames. Oh, and if you want to flex on Lisa too, then learn the deja vu. She also has her throws and offensive holds from back turn and as well as running. So be sure to learn and apply these with your play style as well. Just be aware that these can be punished if you are being reckless, especially from her back turn and running throws, because a lot of these can just be ducked and a lot of these can just be jabbed out of if you don't have the mental plus frames. The most effective way I found to get mileage out of her, for as far as her game plan goes, is to use her as a keep out character. Use her buttons that put her in back turn on block, and if they aren't trying to throw you, then create some space to see how they respond. In neutral, get a bit of distance, and if you can, do some moves from tip range and back up or strike back, and then or even do a throw depending on the situation. It's really just a matter of a lot of trial and error to see how your opponent responds to your keep out game. The purpose of throwing these buttons out and playing the triangle system on block and seeing how often we can force the space out is simple. To get them to press, and then when they press and you block, now you have the advantage. That's how you take your turns. And even better if you back away and create a whole whiff, and then you can punish directly with a whiff punish and lift stuns. Once you've taken your turn and you have the stun, the ball is in your court at that point, because Lisa has more than enough tools, as I've already gone over at this point, and mix up with her back turn and front facing moves and running stuff. You can do all this in combination to overwhelm your opponent on the offense. She is absolutely disgusting once you have the stun on someone. It's just a matter of getting that stun. And the easiest way to get that stun is by annoying the other player with keep out, get them to make the wrong choice in which you're going to take maximum advantage. Now there's a matter of the neutral game from a longer distance. If you've been paying attention, we've went over moves that put us in running stance and put us in the charge state with the backswing blow. Moreover, we went over how you can cancel these moves into each other, as well as the back turn. In neutral, on top of having movement with Lisa, with our movement guide, doing 7k into run, then canceling it into a raw back turn, into a back dash, out into a back turn, into a backswing blow, and then run cancel it again. By doing all this canceling on the screen, you're putting the threat of a back turn, run, and keep out, all with attack mix up. All of this that your opponent has to think about. Just maximum mental stack on your opponent from the neutral. And from this scenario, the ball's in your court. Do you want to force out a whip? Do you want to force out a whiff? Or do you want to run in and try to do something? The ball's in your court. Now, I'm not going to lie. With all that, it sounds like a lot. It sounds like you have to do a lot to get these whiffs. And to be honest, you kind of do. Lisa has to do a lot of work in order to get mileage, considering that her OD buttons are really telegraphed. And if you're just throwing them out willy-nilly, you're going to get clapped. The only reason why you'll see her on the top of the tier list is because she has an unpatched wall throw with a combo follow-up that doesn't damage scale, so you're able to get like 80% off of that. And without that, she's pretty middle of the road. She has a lot of options going for her, but just keep in mind there are stronger characters that can get in and play their version of DOA with far less effort. Not to say that Lisa's a weak character, but she does have to put in that work in order to get in and actually do damage. Speaking of, I think it's time we go over the wall throw combo, since I'm pretty like 90% sure that this damage is going to be patched out in last round. So here's the combo. And I also need to show you the guaranteed version, because that wasn't guaranteed. That wasn't guaranteed. You have chances to get out of that, but there is a guaranteed version of this. And here's the guaranteed version of this move. Now all that was guaranteed. There was nothing they could do about that once they got thrown. So the question comes, why am I showing something that's just going to be patched out in less than 6 months? Because there's still one thing that can be utilized by Lisa, even without the walls throw, that is really useful. And that will be the side switch tech. By doing any version of this jumping kick animation, or doing any version of that, it gives a bounce off the wall animation for the opponent. Like that, you see? It gives you that. And if you go back turn with this attack and bounce them off the wall, then you hold 8 afterwards, it gives you a free step, and then you're able to launch them by getting their back. Assuming that they don't do a break hold or something like that. Now, as far as normal combos go, most DOA 6 combos go the route of launch, juggle, bound, and the close hit. Lisa can't really do this unless she's fighting a lightweight character. Technically, there is a bound combo for you if you just do 6p 4pp on the ground and then hit them with a 6p plus, or not 6p plus k, a 6h plus k. That will give you the bound, and then with 236p you can get that close hit. You got to be close for it to hit like that though. But in most cases with Lisa, you're just going to be juggling into 4h plus k, or trying to go for a hard knockdown. Now there's two ways that you can do this, and this is the reason why I prefer doing the hard knockdown, is because you get force techs. I also kind of do like this about Lisa because it gives you incentive to not do the exact same combo string every single time, so it prevents you from getting complacent. So if you want damage, it's probably best to go for the 4H plus K, especially if you're next to a wall. But if you want the hard knockdown for the force tech, then there's two different ways you can end combos, and that is with, ironically enough, 6P 4PP while you have them in the air. That gives you a hard knockdown, and you have 6 PK that you can hit in the air, which does a hard knockdown. So to show you an example of this, hard knockdown, same thing, hard knockdown. I've been doing that hard knockdown more than the other one, but they're both really good. Honestly, I think the first one's better than the one I've been doing. I've had my brain has been so baked into doing this now that I need to get the mental fortitude of getting that one out now. But it's muscle memory to do this now damn near every single time with Lisa. Speaking of force techs, I've spoken quite a bit about them throughout the video, but what even are they, you know? Well, this game has a system in place where if the opponent's just laying on the floor and not trying to tech up or trying to get up fast or not trying to do a wake up kick or nothing like that, you can force them to stand up so that way they can't do like a delayed wake up kick. You do this by hitting them on the ground twice. With Lisa, if you do a hard knockdown with 6P 4PP, you know they aren't going to force tech up. If you do a 2K and then a 2P, it will force them to stand up. Now there's some cases where the opponent stands up after getting hit the first time. You know, after they get hit the first time, they're going to want to tech up, so that way you try doing the 2P and the 2P just whiffs. All you gotta do after that is just be ready for it. That's just kind of like player, it's kind of like a player thing. You got to recognize if they're going to get up or if they're going to stay on the ground, and from there, if you're ready for it after the first thing, you can follow it up with a 6 PK, and it's almost like frame perfect if you can time it right, to the point where they have to get up, and if they're not blocking, boy, they're getting cooked. The other thing I like to do is 6K or 6T to keep them mixed on wake up, you know, and that's if they, you know, don't want to get up by force. They want to get up after that first hit, got something for them. Now, one thing to note about this is that if you are able to get both hits, say you get this, oh, wrong combo. Say you get this full thing, right? That's a lot of space. You're not going to be able to get 6 PK from here. You're going to get the K out. So how do you circumvent that, right? Well, from this distance, you can implement your run mix. From there, they have to do something from right there. Speaking of 6 PK, that's the next hard knockdown, and this is probably like the most ideal combo route for a force tech, because there is an inherent mix-up in this force tech. If you do a back turn 2K or 2P or even 2K, they'll get up. So, they getting up. They're getting up. And then it's the same scenario right there. Now 2K, they're right in your face, but 2K 2P, like I said, you have that little bit of distance. Same scenario as the 2K 2P situation. However, if you see they're taking up off the floor, you can start doing raw back turn body splash after the hard knockdown to secure that plus 17 on block. And if they don't tech, the body splash and then a 2K is going to work as a ground pound to get them up off the floor. And in more cases, more so often, if you have the execution to pull it off, if they go for a mid wake up kick or even a low wake up kick, you can do 3K4 at the right moment, and you know, at the moment that's about to connect. And by the right moment, I mean like you have to get the kick off in the exact frame that the mid wake up kick is coming, and by doing this, you will stuff the mid kick. This is possible because in DOA, if two attacks clash at the exact same frame, the higher damage attack will be the one that wins out. Now, I don't know how much damage a wake up kick does off the top of my head, but I do know that 3K does more damage than that wake up kick. Therefore, with the right timing, you can stuff it. So let me show you an example of what I'm trying to talk. Get the combo, body splash. Now that in and of itself is really good, because if they just get up and block, you're going to get plus 17. If they get up and try to press a button, it's probably going to be too late. They're probably going to get hit, right? Now, of course, this is assuming that they don't get up after the body splash. So after the raw body splash, they can get up. They can get up after the raw body splash, in which case your 2K is going to turn into just another one of these, right? So just keep that in mind. Got the hard knockdown, body splash, 2K for the ground pound. And then as you can see, I got beat out there because I didn't get the right timing down. But if I time it correctly, so as you can see, if you time it right, you can basically hold him for trying to wake up. This is also why if I do like if I'm also like have them in a combo and I knock them on the ground and I just ground pound them with 2K, let's just say for shits and giggles, I fuck up my tech and I just get one of these. After that, I'm going for that, because if they go for a low wake up kick, I'm winning automatically. And if I go for if they go for a mid wake up kick, I have a chance of winning that interaction regardless. Like I said, it's a little bit higher tech, a little bit more on the execution side, because you have to do it at the correct frame. Like it has to be a frame perfect kick in order to get that to, you know, function that way. But if you get the timing down, people will not even want to wake up kick on you, bro. They're just gonna want to get up, and then if they're just getting up and just allowing you to press buttons, that's the best position you want to be in for Lisa, bro, because then it's just free brawl back turn city at that point. And then last but not least, don't be afraid to use the meter. Don't be afraid to use the meter. This is more of a universal tip for, like, any character can do this. Just don't be afraid to use the meter. This is DOA 6, especially on defense. If you're on defense, you're constantly getting poked out, because like I said, Lisa is a character that likes space, and when you're being all claustrophobic on her, if you're all up in her face, and say I'm fighting a Kasumi's all up in my mouth, hitting me with buttons, stunning the mess out of me, bro, you're gonna want to get out of that, bro. And if anything she doing is faster than your 12 frame get off me move or your offensive hold, bro, you're just gonna get clapped. So don't be afraid to use this break hold, man. Do not be afraid to use the break hold. Don't be afraid to use the fatal stun as well. One thing I'm trying to get better at is implementing the fatal stun, because once you get that fatal stun, the fatal rush, excuse me, all they can do is a break hold after that, and you can force them out of their meter, and the more meter they use, that's less break holds and that's less break blows. You feel me? And then don't forget the sidestep, bro. Sidestep attack, bro. One advantage that Lisa does have is she has a lot of moves at track, so take advantage of that, man. Use your tracking moves to avoid the sidestep, and then start using some sidesteps of your own, man. Sidestep attacks are really, really good. It's best to take advantage of what you got dealt in this game, man, with the meter. So be sure to take advantage of that. That covers about everything I want to talk about when it comes to La Mariposa, man. Thank you for getting this far into the guide, man. Now, when last round drops, we will make an update to this, basically going over the changes, or see what's new, see what's been changed, see what's been buffed, see what's been nerfed, and what may or may not affect the character's kit and game plan, and where we'll go from there. Alright, but for now, that's all I got, man. So if y'all enjoyed this type of content, y'all want to see more, bro, y'all want to see some more DOA, man, y'all already know what to do, man. Leave a like, comment, share with your friends, all that good stuff, man. And as always, subscribe for some more from the Golden Ghost Cartel, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Deuces.